you are among those who's been saying India needs to invest much more in education, much more in health. That's where the government needs to focus on. That's where your spending needs to be. Your schemes need to be better targeted so that they actually benefit those who really need it most. And we haven't invested as much as we should in health and education.
Well, health and education are different. Health, we are among the lowest spenders in the world.
Yes.
Education, we are actually kind of par for our GDP levels. We are more or less, the problem in education is not more spending, but much better spending. I think we kind of spend enormous amounts on salaries and then don't put enough. We don't do enough to get out enough from the teachers. On health, I think Ayushman Bharat is the plan to expand spending. It's a way to, it's not necessarily going to be the biggest improvement in health, but it does protect people's incomes. So it's going to substitute from private spending to public spending. And that I think is a good thing. But I think Ayushman Bharat is, if I had to do something, I would make sure that Ayushman Bharat is working rather than it's just a label and 10,000 people are taking it up, but another 100 crore are not. That's that particular set of these zombie programs. We have a lot of zombie programs. I think Ayushman Bharat should be a focus.
One of the challenges, and Dr. C. Rangarajan, former RBI governor, also said this, is to create jobs outside agriculture. Today you mentioned construction, for example. I mean, these are the sectors, presumably, that are going to alleviate some of the agrarian distress that is being faced.
Exactly.
There is pressure on land, people are migrating. How do you believe that, therefore, there needs to be a shift in priorities in the way the government now approaches budgetary priorities and resources? Because resources are limited, clearly. In that situation, with direct tax collections also falling, do we need to, in a way, refocus our priorities?
I mean, well, as I said, I think the government should be expansionary and kind of not worry too much about deficit targets for the time being. I think
not worry about deficit targets.
I think we haven't worried about it for a while. If you look at the kind of the properly aggregated deficit is much higher because we have all these off-budget items and all these, the state deficit and this and that, you add it up, it's a whole other story. So I think rather than pretending we are doing something we are not doing, let's just be open about it. Say right now we are in a demand shortage, let's expand spending. Okay, I think I think the markets will actually react well to that. I don't think I think this is needed. Then the question is also, but within that, I think you're exactly right. And part of what I'm suggesting is that I think focusing on the construction sector is important in this because it's one place where you have a bunch of spillovers. It's where, as I was saying before, the money flows to the rural sector. You have new construction projects, people actually get those jobs, they send money home, money flows from construction. Second thing, the banking sector really needs revival, and the construction sector, if it were a bit more prosperous, some of the loans would be repaid and the banking sector would start to be a little bit more relaxed. I think the stressed banking sector is a huge issue because that then spills over on the rest of the economy because then these guys don't lend, and if they don't lend, then people can't borrow, etc.
Let me ask you in conclusion, in the last 6 months, the Prime Minister has spun this idea of a 5 trillion economy by 2024. Is it time to be more realistic? Do you believe that rather than spin dreams, let's focus on the reality as it exists and first resolve the issues? Or do you believe that politicians will always, do you believe that $5 trillion dream in the first instance?
No. I think it's right now, given the state of growth, it's going to be, just the numbers don't look realistic. And the growth we'll need to get to 5 trillion by 2024, it's going to be hard to get there. So no, I don't. I think I think aspirations are valuable. I don't think that the Prime Minister is wrong in projecting a sense that we should aspire to big things. Having said that, I think they're also distracting. If you really think that that's where you're going, then maybe you think that we need to try to tighten our belt right now because we're going to become this powerhouse tomorrow. But if you think that that leads to us not recognizing the short-run problem. I think the short-run problem may turn into a long-run problem if we don't solve it. Let's solve the problem now. If the banking sector doesn't revive, there won't be investment. If there's no investment, we're not going to go to 5 trillion. So let's think about what we can do to solve the problems at hand.
Let me therefore ask you in conclusion, when you see around you an element of social chaos, political confrontation, does that lend itself to a healthy ecosystem in which the economy will once again be back on the growth track? If issues like CAA, Article 370, seemingly polarizing, start dominating the headlines, surely social disharmony is not conducive to economic growth. Or are we saying that authoritarianism or this kind of social conflict is isolated from the economic reality?
Look, I think that I think the social conflict, the first order is that I think we should worry about what the investors are thinking. I mean, the foreign investors. We actually have had, for the first years of Mr. Modi's government, we did very well on foreign investment. And I think the foreign investors will start to worry about stability and also about, you know, their image and all of those things. So I do think that we should be concerned. But having said that, I think that the part of my sense is that reviving the economy will actually move us back towards, I think, something that I think the social conflicts are partly a product of an economy that's tanking also. So I do think that...
That's very interesting. You're saying that some of the protests are in a way linked to anxiety over jobs, anxiety over the economic future.
Absolutely. And conversely, you know, some of the people, the counter protests are also coming from people who feel that, you know, given that the economy is not working well, let's focus on social issues. I think the whole
it becomes a distraction for some.
Yes.
So net, what you're saying is just focus on the demand issue and start reviving the economy as your top priority.
Absolutely. It has to be absolutely right now. I think I don't typically believe in, you know, cycles sort of having a natural you know, sort of feedback mechanisms that can take them out necessarily. So I worry that we can get stuck. You know, Brazil, if you think of Brazil was the world's fastest growing economy, or one of them, between 1960 and 1980. In 1980 it stopped growing, and 20 years it didn't grow. So first they said this was a cyclical, and then they said it's a long cycle, and then it was a very long cycle. And my worry is that we shouldn't, sort of these words like cyclical seem comforting, but they're cyclical if you solve the problem. If you don't solve the problem, they can be chronic.